Hello, students. Today we are going to see a new chapter which is known as Python functions. So, in this chapter, we are going to learn about concepts of functions and their types. Okay, so difference between the user defined function and built in function, and how to call the function, how to use the function. Okay, understand the function arguments. So function arguments means the input data that we give to the function is known as arguments. To know the anonymous function, okay, so in Python we have uh, a different type of function which is known as anonymous function, which is a new one in a programming language. So we are going to learn what is anonymous function, and then we are going to know some mathematical and string function which is already been available in the Python. So what is function? So function is a named block of code that are designed to do a specific job. So it is a name given to a small block of a small block of code, so that when you call that name, that small block of code will be executed. So when you give some input to the small block of code, then that is known as argument. This block of codes can be uh, can be called any number of time. Okay, so we are going to learn one by one in the upcoming chapter. Okay, so when you want to perform a particular task that you have defined in a function, you call the name of the function responsible for it. Okay, so if you have some small task that is defined as a function, then if you want to do that function do some task that is assigned as a program, then you can call that function by its name. Okay, so if you need to perform the task multiple times throughout your program, you no need to type all the code for the same task again and again. You can just call the function dedicated to handle the task, and the call tells Python to run the code inside the function. You'll uh, find that using functions make your program write easier to write and read and test and fix the errors. Okay, so if you want to use a small block of statement multiple times in a program, then you in older programming language you would be typing the entire block of code again and again. But when this function concept was introduced, it can be called so that it will be very easy to create programs. Okay, and that what is given here. So main advantages of functions are it avoids repetition and makes high degree of code reusability. Uh, it uh, it provides better modularity for your application. So you can fix error very easily. Okay, so when you when you break down all the big program uh, into smaller uh, functions, then if you have some issue, it will be very easy to find the issue and to fix the problem. Okay, so this is the mm, main advantages of function. Okay, so function is nothing but a group of related statement that performs a specific task. Okay, so it is nothing but a group of statements that are intended to do some specific task. Types of function. So there are four different types of function in Python. A user defined function, built-in function, lambda function, regression function. Okay, user defined functions are defined by the user themselves. Okay, so if you want to create a function, then you can define the function as you need. Okay, so as your requirements or as your own wish, you can create your function. So that is known as user defined function. So the next thing is built-in function. So built-in function are the function that are already been created by the Python programmer itself. uh, you can just use it. You can just use it by giving the input for this built-in function. It will calculate the function. It will calculate the values and provide you the output. Okay, so you no need to create the code for it. Okay, so that is built-in function. The next thing is lambda function. So this lambda function is a new one here. Functions that are anonymous, unnamed function. Okay, so there will be no name for it, this function, but it will do some action for that particular task. Okay, so you'll be seeing in detail about this lambda function in the upcoming chapter. Okay, so next is a regression function. Okay, so there are four different types of functions. So of built-in function, user defined function, lambda function, and regression function means the function that calls itself again and again. Okay, until the work is completed. Okay, so uh, it will the function itself will be having an instruction to call the particular function. Okay, so this is known as recursive function. Regression function or recursive function, both are the same. So now we'll see how to create a function. So in Python, to create a function, it is given in other terms as defining function. Okay, so how do this function work? So you are defining the work of a function. So that's what it is given here as a defining a function. Function must be defined to create and use certain functionalities. Okay, so there are many built-in functions that comes with the language Python. So for instance, print is a function. Okay, so that function will print whatever text that is given inside this brackets. Okay, so but you can also define your own function. Okay, uh, if you want to create your own function, then you can use this rules. Okay, so when defining function, there are multiple things uh, that need to be noted. Okay, so the first thing is you have to you have to follow some rules to define a function. Okay, so the first thing is function block begins with the keyword def. Def is a keyword, so that is used to create a function. So a function name must always begin with the diff keyword. Okay, followed with the follower name and the parenthesis. Okay, so you can see that diff is the keyword, and after that you should give the function name, and after that you will be using this brackets. Okay, so here you can see that this is the syntax for function. You can see that diff is given here, and after that function name is an optional one. Okay, so in lambda function, which means unnamed function, you will not be using a file name, sorry, function name uh, in that part. Okay, so next is block. A block is one or more lines of code grouped together, uh, grouped together so that they are treated as one big sequence of statements while execution. Uh, in Python, statements in a block are written within indentation. Okay, so we have seen in the previous chapters what is indentation. So indentation means the space given between the margin and the starting of the instruction. So in other programming language, to create a block you will be using a bracket, starting bracket and ending bracket, so that this will be created as a block. But here in Python, if you want to create a block, you should indent mean give some space between margin and the uh, lines of code. Okay, so that this will be considered as a block of statement. Okay, so that's what it's given here. Block. So a block, usually block begins when a line is indented, and all the statements of the block should be in the same indentation level. Okay, in the upcoming class we'll be seeing this example, so that you will be understanding easily. Okay, so any input parameters or arguments should be placed within the parenthesis when you define a function. So if your function needs some input, then that must be placed inside this parenthesis, which means the brackets. Okay, so and the code block always comes after colon. Okay, and is indented. Okay, so at the end of the function calling statement, you you'll be using this colon. Okay, so that the Python will consider as this is a function. And in the next point you can see that the statements written written statement will end the work of the function. Okay, so exit the function, optional passing back an expression to the caller. A written statement will not will a written state and written with no argument is same as written done. Okay, so you can also create a program or create a function in such a way that it gets the input from the user and take the data and process it, and return the output of the data. Okay, so the output is gathered, okay, by using this return statement. So even you can create a return statement without any uh, output. Okay, so this function will get the input, process it, and store it somewhere, and that's all. Okay, so it will you can see that this return function will stop the function of work stop the working of the function. So it would be very easy to move on to the next part of the program. So these are all the three things that has to be noted while defining a function. So, and you can see that Python keyword should not be used as a function name. So if you are if you want to create a function name, then predefined keywords should not be used in it. Okay, if you use it, then you will be erasing errors in it. Okay, so in the above syntax, the text which is given in square brackets is optional. Okay, so here you can see that parenthesis is given inside parameters 1, parameter 2 are given inside this square brackets. Even you can create a function without any input. Okay, so that is optional. Nested block. So a block inside another block is known as nested block. So you can also create nested block in this function uh, in this function. Okay, in any function you can create block and inside one block you can also create another block by providing double spaces. Okay, so double indentation can also be created. Okay, so that is nested block. So here is an example for uh, defining a function do something. So here there is a mistake here. You can see that diff keyword is not assigned here, and yes, here you can see that this is the valid example. Okay, so uh, diff keyword is used and hello is the function name, and no input is given inside it, and you can also see that colon is provided at the end of it. Okay, and you can see that print hello python, that the space between the margin line and the starting of the code is the indentation process. So this line and the next line return statement are block. It's a block of statement. So when the compiler sees this return statement, it will stop executing of this stop execution of this uh, hello function. Okay, so here you can see that these are all the uh, advantages of using this function. So function helps us divide a program into modules. This makes the code easier to manage. uh, it implements code reuse. Every time you need to execute sequence of statement, all you need to do is call that particular function allows us to change functionality easily, and different programmers can work on different functions. So these are all the main advantages of using functional. You can easily find some error, and you can divide the entire big program into smaller program, and code reusability. Okay, if you want to use it in another project, you can just use it as it is. Okay, so that is code reusability. So next is calling the function. So now you know how to create a function. Now you have to know how to call it, how to uh, start execution of the function. So the first thing is to call a hello function. You have to know uh, how to call it. Okay, so here you can see that the example which is created in the previous page is hello. So we are going to call that function. So how to know how to call the function. Okay, alternate, you can see that this will be the output of the function. So how in this example they have shown how to call the hello function. So this is the first three lines of the function, and you can see that this print hello is it should be it should be near the margin. So, it's a mistake there. You can see that when this hello word the word hello is seen, then the particular uh, function is called, and it will print the hello python. Okay, so even you can see that mm, uh, return statement has nothing in, only the word return is given there. So if you calculate anything, or if the value that has to be passed to the calling statement, then you can use the value next to the word return keyword. Mm. So with this we'll finish the class today. We'll see the passing parameters into the function. Okay, so providing the input to a function is passing value to a passing parameter, or passing value to the function, or the same. So we'll see that in the next class. Thank you, students.